Oh, Calamity Gundam again. Part 6. Alright, we are looking at the rear end thrusters. It's showing the depth on the picture, but yet on the actual plastic part it's very shallow. So they're actually going to dig in lines with the hobby knife, showing here. Well, actually this is a plastic engraver, or scriber. And they're just kind of digging around, making a gap between the two, so it looks more 3D realistic. And now the knife will go around and score it some more, get rid of the plastic that kind of made its way up. And this will just give it like a look like it's not part of the original piece of plastic. It makes it kind of look like it was two parts, which makes it have a better 3D effect, which is what they're going for. A little bit of light sanding and it really looks better. And the video's overlapped. I actually got this in 4 different parts and I spliced them all together, so there's going to be a little bit of overlapping because I really don't feel like editing the video. I'm just going to do my little talkie and then update it on my channel. Alright, now I think they're going to prime it, because she said, Mr. So-for-so. And it looks like the seam lines are gone on the side there. Ah, Mr. Surfacer, that's right, primer. That is the spray can primer of Mr. Surfacer. I actually get the little bottles, mix it with water, and use my airbrush. That is an airbrush booth. That is basically cardboard on its side, and a tube that goes to a fan to suck the excess spray away. And then it's a lot safer and healthier that way. See, the fan would be sucking in the extra spray paint. I have some videos of where I made an airbrush booth, and you can check that out. It'd be a lot better than this cardboard one. I think those cardboard setups cost about $50, so I don't recommend doing that. You can make your very own with lights for like $10 or $15. It's real easy. But what you want to do here is a light even coat. It's better to put on a lot of thin coats than one heavy coat. Basically, you want to spray just a light mist on it and let that dry for a few seconds, and then it'll be sticky, like gummy, and then that'll hold the rest of the paint you put on. Here it is, all primed. I think that looks so badass. Notice on the back of the shoulders, those handles are filled in now. Well, I guess they'll close in on it when it gets to the top. Maybe. 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 No. Well, you can see it from here. It's not hollow anymore, which is nice. And also the little arms holding the swords, they're not hollow anymore either. So, and the part on the back of his arms, the pinchers or whatever they are, the little mini shields. Part 9. Kicking ass. Okay, this is an airbrush for anybody who doesn't have a pulse. He's testing the paint and pressure to make sure there's no orange peeling, which is when there's too much pressure and the paint dries in midair, and when it hits the actual surface it makes little dents, like the surface of an orange. This is a little air compressor. It looks like a pretty basic model. You can normally pick one of these up for about $80. That glass jar is for collecting moisture. Sometimes inside of the tank a little bit of water will form because it's metal, and that glass jar will catch the water so it doesn't shoot out your brush and ruin your paint job. This is a double action airbrush. If you press down, air comes out. If you pull back, it mixes paint with it. The more you pull back, the more paint comes with the air, and the less you push down, the less air comes out. Adjusting this bit changes the width of the pattern because there's a needle in it, and it pushes the needle forward and backward, which makes less or more paint come out all at one time. Now it should do an example of a huge area. Yeah, a lot of paint now. It just depends on how much you want to use. I'll do an airbrush video if someone's curious. They're mixing Gundam color paint, which is a Mr. Color product. I think they sell these on Hobby Link Japan, I believe, or Hobby Wave, one of those two. That's going to be thinner, Mr. Hobby thinner. It's good for Mr. Hobby paints. You mix it 1-to-1. For every drop of paint, you put in 1 drop of thinner, and that's so it'll flow through the airbrush. You want it about the consistency of skim milk. What he's doing there, the bubbles, it's mixing the paint a little bit better. You can see it again here with clear. If you just cover up the tip, the air can't get out the tip, so it goes up through the paint reservoir. You can also do that when you're cleaning too. You put in alcohol or whatever thinner you use and cover the nozzle and it'll... Hey, part 10! Alright, now he's airbrushing the color on. It's going to be a nice orangey color. He's slowly turning the part and just kind of practicing before he actually sprays out the paint. He's probably going to do a very light mist of paint to where it slowly changes color. Maybe. Spraying. Just very light coats. If you put too much on, it can cause droplets, and that's just horrible. I can do an example of a droplet someday, but I'd rather not. It's where the paint just collects and it looks like it's dripping off, and then it hardens that way when it dries. It's ugly. Alright, this is going to be the actual paint, I believe. Yeah. He goes around the outside, like outlining it, before he actually paints everything. That makes the corners look darker, and it's kind of a form of shading. You can see he went around it there. Now he's adjusting the needle to let more paint through, and now he'll actually do a full coat. And this will give the effect that around the corners it'll be darker, so it'll be more shadowy, like a realistic object. Alright, still painting. You'll notice you really don't have to paint those pegs because nobody's ever going to see them. And also on the chest there that's covered up, you don't really have to paint it because something's going to go there, but you can if you want. It never hurts to practice, I guess. So that's a decent paint job, but it's not really high quality video, so I can't really tell if there's like orange peeling or anything. The video's overlapped right there, obviously. Now it's going to cut to commercial, but we don't have commercials here on 1/44 scale yet. Calamity Gundam, again. Alright, the little shields. This part's going to talk about masking, which is where you use tape to mask off the parts you don't want to get painted. Because you can't airbrush this whole thing, it'd be impossible. You can airbrush it in parts if you mask off, but other than that you're going to need a brush. What he's doing is he's just taking masking tape and he's cutting it to size using a straight edge ruler. Then he's cutting it into smaller pieces so he can handle it easier. He's picking up the tiny strips with tweezers and he's going to cover up the parts he does not want paint on. More advanced masking, you can do things like camouflage or even put logos on your paint kits and your initials maybe if you really wanted to. Like if you wanted to put it on the bottom of the foot, you could always use masking tape and mask off what you don't want painted. You could leave your initials on the bottom of the foot and paint. If you're really proud of your work. You notice he just masks off that little part and he's masking off around here. And keep in mind this entire part was just that bright orange plastic color when we started. So he painted the whole thing yellow first. So yellow is the primary color that was going to be the hardest to do. Which is what color he wants the these little edges and parts to be. He's going along the groove here and cutting the tape off. Be careful you don't scratch too deep into your paint though. This won't really matter much because this is going to be panel lined, which is where we put black ink down in those crevices to give it an illusion of depth and wear. It gives the illusion of dirt down in there and shadow, like the kit's accumulated over years. Now he's spraying orange because the center part of the shield is supposed to be orange, which was the original color it was, but you gotta paint it anyway because it was white primer. Notice the clip he has in his hand, so he doesn't actually have to hold the piece with his bare hand or a gloved hand. Now the masking tape can come off. Be careful, because if you pull it off too fast, there's a chance you could rip the paint. And you get this awesome effect. It's pretty much perfect. Just a little bit of tape can do that. And then he used tape to do the rest of it too. Just put tape over parts. It looks like it's several separate pieces of plastic instead of just one solid color orange, which is nice. Yay, part 13. I believe there's 108 parts, but we'll get to that. Alright, now we're at the sword, and the parts that are not covered up are supposed to be beam weapons, and Bandai didn't include a clear beam weapon for this guy. He just one big plastic part. So they're taking a nice green paint you can see inside of the cup, and he's lightly putting green paint on it around the tip and around the base, so that way when he actually paints it, it'll again do shading, kind of like on the sides of the chest he did. Alright, you're going to want to put the most green at the tip, because that's where the energy is supposed to focus at, and just slowly work your way down if you're going to use this effect. And also, you don't have to use green. If you want to be creative, you can use other colors like yellow or pink, things like that. Or even purple if you like Mace Windu. Okay, he's checking it out. Now he's doing the same thing with the blade. It's going to be the greenest in the middle because that's where the two connect. So I'm pretty sure the beam shoots out of both ends and connects in the middle, because that's what it looks like to me. This is going to give it an effect, the white to green, that makes it seem like it's a beam. But it's not quite going to look as good as if they actually included a clear green piece. But it will look a heck of a lot better. If you look at the piece in his hand, you can see he used some masking tape to paint all those little parts, which is a technique it showed in the last part, which if anybody has questions about it, I can talk about in a video. No problem. Now he's doing shading. He's using some light gray paint in the airbrush. It's very light gray, and it on the kit will give an impression of shadow, which makes the kit look more realistic as well, which is what this is basically all about, is making the kit look as realistic as possible, or as nice as possible. There's the feet. He's going to shade the bottoms of it. Sometimes people like to get like fake dirt and fake mud and put them on the bottoms of their kits, but I've seen a lot of people mess this up. Because people forget that these robots are supposed to be like, what is it, like 90 feet high? And so they put the mud all the way up to the shin. And a robot, obviously, that's 90 feet high would not sink all the way to the shin in mud. It would just barely cover the bottom of the feet. So, if you're going to use fake mud, don't overdo it. Less is more.